Hi, I'm Jim from Thermwood. In my last video, I showed you how to use our cut center to make cabinets, closets, furniture, doors, drawers, and moldings right at the machine, without a separate computer or software or CNC programming. In this video, I will show you our newly expanded cuts capability. These are simple cutting routines you run without either programming or creating a job. Just tell the machine what you want to do and it does it. These are simple but represent an all-new way to interact with the machine. There are currently 3 areas in cuts. The first area cuts basic shapes, squares, rectangles, circles, and the like. Select what you want, define the size, and cut it. The second area cuts these basic shapes as frames. It is the third area, custom cuts, that I find most interesting. Here we do things with the machine in an all-new way. We access the most basic machine functions to do common jobs right at the machine. Let me show you. The first new feature cuts a line. That's right, it just cuts a line. Why would you use a cut center to cut a line rather than, say, a table saw? There are actually some really good reasons. First, the line will be perfectly smooth and straight, even on hardwood, which is not always easy with a table saw, especially if the part is heavy or clumsy or uneven. Another advantage is that the line can be a curve instead of a straight line. Let me show you how this works. Here I have a board that has been run through a planer, but the outside edges are still rough. I want to put a gentle curve along one edge and a straight cut on the other. Let's go to the control. Now we'll tell the machine to make something new. We'll go to Cuts and Custom. These are the 3 styles we have available. More are coming. We'll select Cut Line, and we're going to cut hardwood. When cutting hardwood, we'll do multiple passes in a climb cut fashion so as to prevent tear out and give us a nice smooth edge. Our stock thickness will be 1 inch, our line length will be 74, and our arc height will be 1 inch. The machine is ready and we should press start or press the clicker. We'll use the clicker to start the machine, which will etch our cut line into the wasteboard. This line shows us exactly where the cut will be. We'll use it to locate our board. We are using double-sided carpet tape to help hold the board, since vacuum alone doesn't always work with hardwood, especially if it's a little warped. This turns on vacuum so we can verify the part is held securely. Seems solid, so I'll use the clicker to start the cycle. Notice the smooth, even edge. For the second edge, I'll just cut a straight line the same way. How would you do this in your shop if you had to? The next cutting feature is the ability to machine a smooth, level, flat surface on a large part. If your part is narrow enough for a planer, that's usually the quickest, easiest way. Once the part gets too big for a planer, or if it won't go through a planer, you can level it with the cut center. We can level parts up to 5 foot by 10 foot and up to 3.5 inches thick. Let me show you how this works. Here is a slab cut from a log with a chainsaw. I want to plane it flat on both sides. Clearly this won't work with most cabinet shop planers. It's too big, planers don't cut end grain very well, and with the really rough chainsaw cuts, it won't feed through the planer very well, if at all. It is a great part to demonstrate this. And we'll go to Cuts, to Custom, and to Level. The machine needs to know the final material thickness. Now the machine needs to know the boundary the part will fit in. And the machine needs to know the raw material thickness. We'll make sure the table is clear and use the clicker to start the process. Now I'll locate the blank inside the etched outline. I'll use these plywood panels and machine vacuum to secure the blank for cutting, since the backside is way too rough for either vacuum or tape. We'll need to shim the blank so it doesn't rock. Once this side is cut, the other side will be a lot easier. Pressing the clicker turns on the vacuum so I can make sure the blank is held firmly. Now we start the cutting process. The cut is done. The machine wants to know what to do next. If we didn't quite go deep enough, we could cut a little deeper, or if we want to level the other side, we could just flip it over and tell it to cut again. We could also level another part with the same setup and markings. Here's the part level on one side. I'll flip it over and do the other side the same way, which will make both sides flat and parallel. There are probably other ways to do this, but you have to admit, this is pretty slick and easy. For the last new cut feature, let's say we're making a closet from veneer plywood. Let's say we're using aromatic cedar. This is getting popular, and the cedar plywood is readily available, but it's almost impossible to find aromatic cedar edge banding. Other types of cedar banding are easy to find, but don't match very well. In fact, they look generally pretty awful. Aromatic cedar has knots and voids and dramatic color variations, but it's difficult to make into edge banding and almost impossible to find. You may encounter the same problem with exotic or rare veneers. Even materials like maple have problems with matching edge banding. Most cabinet makers do the best they can and just live with the result. Let's see how the Cut Center handles this. Here I have a sheet of aromatic cedar veneer. It is paper backed, which helps hold it together, and the backing disappears once you apply it. You'll find that for most materials, the veneer itself is relatively easy to find, even though edge banding may not be. So let's turn this veneer into edge banding. And we'll go to Cuts, and then Custom, and Edge Banding. The machine wants to know how wide you want your edge banding. Make sure it's wider than your material to allow for trim. The machine wants to know veneer sheet size. Just like the other processes, we'll use the clicker to show us where to locate the veneer sheet. We'll use vacuum to hold the veneer, but need to use masking tape to make sure the ends stay down and banding doesn't curl up when it's cut free. Now we'll use the clicker to start. Here we have strips of edge banding that match the face veneer. They are even and straight and run through our edge bander just fine. Again, there are probably other ways to slice the banding from veneer, but this is pretty slick and easy and the result works just great. As you can see, our closet looks pretty nice. The edges match rather well and give a really nice look. This simple ability can be a huge benefit when you are trying to make really good pieces. Pieces that separate you from everyone else. And as you can see, it's pretty easy with a cut center. What I have shown are 3 ways to work with a cut center that are quite different than running CNC programs on a CNC router. You can do all this by writing CNC programs and running them on a CNC router, but that would take a lot of time and some serious effort, and you would have to create CNC programs, load and run them, plus you have to deal with tooling and settings and other things that you don't have to worry about with a cut center. With a cut center, it's quick and easy, and you do it all right at the machine. There are more custom cuts coming. We are already working on some great new capabilities, and when they're ready, you as a cut center owner can download and add them to your machine for free. The cut center really does offer some exciting new ways to operate. You should visit Thermwood and try one yourself.